Lesson 2, Patterns. Goals for this lesson. I understand how to identify a pattern. I can understand what the pattern is, and I can figure out what the rest of the pattern is. Welcome! Today we'll be talking about patterns. Right here we have a pattern we'll be discussing shortly. Let's talk about the types of patterns we see here. So, what do you think the pattern is here? What is changing in this sequence? So, there's multiple ways a pattern can change. You can have a color pattern, where, say, something goes from purple to yellow, back to purple, and the pattern repeats as purple, yellow, purple, yellow. So that's a color pattern. Or we can have a size pattern, where something is small, then big, then small, then big again, and that repeats. So what's happening here is the pattern is we have one more cherry each time because we go from one cherry to 2 cherries to 3 cherries. We add one object in our group each time. So, knowing that, can you think about what the next sequence in the pattern would be? If you said we would have 4 cherries next, you would be correct, because each time the pattern increases by 1, so we'd end up with 4 cherries. Now let's talk about the type of pattern we see here. So notice how my first candy is going to be yellow. Then my next candy is instead pink. Oh, and then what's the next candy? It's yellow again. And then the last candy is pink again. So this pattern is one of color, so this is a color pattern. So if we were to make the next terms in this sequence, what would we have next? We would have a yellow candy. And then after that, we would have a pink candy because the pattern goes yellow, pink, yellow, then pink again. Now, let's talk about this pattern. What's the difference between each one of these shapes? They're all getting bigger, so we go from something small to something bigger to something even bigger. So if we were continuing this pattern, what do you think would be the next term? That's right, an even bigger star. Now, let's try and make our own patterns. So, to start, I'm going to start with a square. And then, I think I want this to be a bigger, filled-in square. So I'm using a combination of both a color pattern and a size pattern where we go small, big, small, big, and then we go from an outline of a shape to a colored-in purple square. Another example of a pattern would be where each shape that gets small gets even smaller each time, and each shape that gets bigger gets even bigger each time. Now let's practice identifying these patterns. So first this goes square, triangle, and then square. Is there any change in color in this pattern? No, there's just a change in shape. So we can assume the pattern goes triangle, square, triangle, if we want to continue it. Next pattern, do you notice a difference in color? No. Do you notice a difference in shape? Also no. The difference is in size, so the next part of our pattern would be a really big square. What do you notice is different about these? That's right, their color changes. So the next term in the pattern would be a green square, and then the next, an orange square.